Today we're going to be talking about how emotional wound healing is very similar to physical wound healing. How's it going, guys? Dr. Tank PharmD here, board certified practicing pharmacist and personal health coach, helping action takers like you take back control of their lives and emotional health. And although I am a practicing medicine specialist, I'm not your specialist. So if you have any questions regarding your condition, please see your doctor. Let's get into it. We all know what to do with physical injury. If we have a sprain, we let it rest. If we have a bruise, we can ice it up. If we get a cut, we clean it and apply some bandage. And if it's really bad, we go to the ER. What we don't know what to do is how to deal with emotional wounds. For example, if you lose a friend, a best friend, and you end up not talking to each other, what do? That's the problem that we have, is we don't really know how to address emotional wounds as well as we know how to address physical wounds. Now, I'm not going to be talking about major trauma. That takes professional work. What I am talking about is emotional wounds that you experience from life, such as breakups or loss of friends. These are absolutely normal human experiences. How are these emotional wounds similar to physical wounds is what we're going to be talking about. The first way they're similar is that there's pain associated with it. When you get a cut, it's going to hurt like hell at the beginning. Same way applies to emotional wounds. Whenever there's trauma involved in an emotional wound, like you lost a friend or lost someone who's broken up with you, you feel that pain. And that pain is very similar to a physical pain in that it activates the same neurons in the brain. This pain is going to hurt like hell at the beginning, and it's absolutely normal. To experience that pain is to be human. The second way emotional wounds and physical wounds are similar is that it's going to take for you to rebuild the structure that you had before. In other words, when you had physical wounds, there was a weakness in that structure of yours that caused that breakdown. When you have to rebuild it, you have to start from scratch, rebuild the muscle, tendon, and bone around it. Same thing applies with emotional wounds. When you're having an emotional wound, there was something in your beliefs that broke down. Maybe that person wasn't really the friend that you thought they were. You have to rebuild your beliefs to what is truly happening, and you have to start from scratch. Sometimes it's not that easy either, but you have to do it in order to recover. The next way physical and emotional wounds are similar in that it's going to take a lot of time. Physical wounds take a lot of time to heal. Unless you're Wolverine or Deadpool. That's stuff like sci-fi. But if you have an emotional wound, it's going to take a long time to heal, just like a physical wound. And with these two, it's also important not to get frustrated in the process. When you have a physical wound, it's tough to realize you can't do things the way you did before. You can't move around the way you did before. Same way with emotional wounds. You can't do the things you used to do anymore the same way. It takes time, so you have to realize, don't get frustrated in the process. Now, when you have a physical wound, you also want to make sure that you're not hard on yourself. You want to make it as easy as possible. If you got a broken arm, you don't want to be using that arm every time. You want to make things as easy as possible for you. Same thing applies to emotional wounds. You can't do things the way that you used to. You don't want to stress yourself out when you have an emotional burden. It's going to make things a lot worse for you. Take the time to recover and realize you're not the same as you were before. The next thing you want to realize is that if you have a physical wound, you're not going to punch yourself in the arm or wherever you're injured. That would be insane. Same thing applies to emotional wounds. If you have an emotional wound, you want to make sure that you don't beat yourself up over it. It takes two people to build a relationship, and it takes two people to break it down. Maybe some of it's your fault, maybe most of it, but not all of it. You also don't want to talk to yourself negatively. You don't want to say you're stupid or you're dumb or it was all your fault. Maybe you don't deserve it. That's negative talk you don't want to engage in. Try to provide positive speak to yourself. When it comes to both physical and emotional wound, you want to make sure you don't give up. It's tough when you're injured and you're trying to get through the day and you're trying to move around, but you will recover. Maybe not 100%, but you will recover. Same thing applies to emotional wounds. You're gonna recover. Maybe not 100%, but you will. Don't give up. Keep going, learn to improve, rebuild yourself. And finally, as I mentioned before, if it is a massive, massive trauma, physical or emotional, you want to go see a professional. You can't do this on your own sometimes. It's very difficult sometimes to do this when you don't have the tools. What do you think, guys? Have you guys been dealing with emotional wounds the same way you do with physical wounds? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're dealing with emotional wounds and want the tools to recover your self-confidence and emotional health, check out the Emotional RX program below. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and until next time, guys, stay healthy.